Hello, I'm Java and I make videos about grand strategy games. Today, I'm collaborating with Paradoxinteractive to show you the new narrative content of Victoria 3, The Great Wave. In this video, we'll go over how this content develops Japan's evolution from its internal crisis and its opening to the outside world, to the situations of Ryukyu, Hokkaido, and Korea, and finally the role the Saibatsu may come to play within the new Japan. One of the first major elements is the Tenpō Crisis. This journal entry places us in a period where Japan is under pressure from several fronts at once. For harvest, famine, raising grain prices, internal social tensions, and an increasingly visible foreign threat as Western powers draw closer to its shores. What makes it interesting is that it is not resolved through a single decision, but through different objectives divided between a reformist, hardliner, and a shared agenda. We can complete goals from both sides, so we're not forced to commit to only one position. And depending on how many objectives we complete for each tendency, the outcome changes. So, in gameplay terms, the crisis works as a kind of starting point that defines what sort of transition Japan is going to go through. A more reformist one, a more conservative one, or a mix of both. After opening the borders and returning power to the emperor, one of the most important events is the mission to the west. Through this mission, Japan is not only trying to improve its diplomatic ties with the Western powers, but also to absorb their knowledge and adapt it to its own development. It works through a series of events where we decide how much time we want to spend in each country. And depending on those decisions, we learn about their laws, institutions, and technological advances. This turns Japan's opening to the outside world into something useful and tangible. We can gain bonuses related to research, politics, law enactment speed, or diplomatic relations. Another important point is the Kingdom of Ryukyu. Historically, Ryukyu was in a very particular position. Since the 1609 invasion by the Satsuma domain, the kingdom had been subordinated in practice to Japan, while at the time maintaining tributary relations with Qing and preserving a certain appearance of independence. It was essentially a territory balance between two powers. In the game, this is represented through a journal entry where Japan and Qing compete to influence the kingdom's fate. And what makes it interesting is that it does not revolve only around war, but also around diplomatic relations, economic pressure, obligations, monetary treaties, and naval power projection. If Japan wins, Ryukyu ends up joining the country. If Qing wins, Ryukyu becomes its subject. And there's also a third important possibility. If neither side manages to prevail clearly, Ryukyu may end up asserting its own independence. In the case of Hokkaido, the focus is on the development and integration of the North. With Taming the North, the game presents us with a series of decisions aimed at populating the region, growing its economy, and strengthening its role within the country. Throughout this process, we take measures such as introducing new crops, continuing land reclamation, and supporting development institutions. And once completed, Hokkaido receives lasting bonuses related to growth, migration, and resources. The content for Korea is more focused on administration, investment, and political control. With the government of Chosen, the game presents Japanese rule over Korea as something that requires more than just controlling the territory. It also has to be integrated into a structure capable of administrating and developing it. After all of that, the corporate empire comes into play, which is the part centered on the Saibatsu. It raises how Japanese industrialization can end up concentrating an enormous amount of power in large economic conglomerates. At a certain point, the issue is no longer just growth, but deciding who's going to dominate that growth and how much weight those elites are going to carry within the new political order. In gameplay terms, this event can take us in two directions. One is to consolidate the Saibatsu as a central force within the country. The other is to restrain them in order to prevent them from accumulating too much political and economic power. After the crisis, the opening and modernization, a new question appears, which is who really holds power inside industrial Japan? And beyond all of that main content, there's also a quite lot of flavor spread throughout the campaign. There are standalone events related to historical natural disasters, the effects of westernization on Japanese society, among other things. Historical characters are also added, and more briefly, visual details help reinforce the overall atmosphere of the Japanese content. Taken together, the Great Wave develops Japan's evolution through several fairly clear stages. First, the internal crisis, then the opening and learning from abroad, followed by the struggle over its regional surroundings, and finally the economic and political consolidation of the new state. update. So if you want to see more content about Victoria 3, subscribe to the channel and go watch the previous video where I talked about the new naval mechanics introduced in the new DLC.